So let's just start with what Europe looks like today. We had a few questions about that. And let's begin with the difference between a European city and a city in, let's just compare with the United States. So what's the difference? What does a city in Europe look like in the center?
So focus on the main business area.
Yes. European cities have a central business district, or a CBD. And a very good example of this would be Paris, where we have lots of government buildings, lots of housing. And then you see, if you look at a map of France, you see the roads radiating out of Paris. So that's a very good example of that. And if you look at a city, let's say in the United States, many cities, not all of them, are not planned, and there's a lot more sprawl, and there's housing and business districts. Everything's kind of put in together. What would you say Guam is like? Is Guam very well planned out with central districts, or is it more sprawl?
Sprawl.
Yes, it's more sprawl. Even though ancient Guam had the village system in place, after post-colonial times, and then, you know, with the U.S., the system of the U.S. is more for just using zoning, different little patches of zoning. So really there's some zones where there's a lot of people, a lot of businesses, but it's all kind of mixed. Europe tends to, since Europe has so many countries in so small a space, housing tends to be at a premium. Housing's very expensive, it's often hard to find, whereas in the United States, especially in rural communities, housing is much easier to find. It can be a lot cheaper than it is in Europe. So these are some of the differences that you see between modern European cities and modern US cities. The euro is quite strong right now, the euro dollar. And then we can look also, another thing that we can look at in modern Europe is there are places that have fractured off. We were talking about nationality a lot and how that caused some fracturing and how centrifugal forces can cause a splitting to occur. Well, when that happens within a state, we call that a devolution. So what are some examples of devolutions? You can actually make a map of devolutions where you can show the devolutions that are occurring within states. That is, places that are wanting to split off. So can you give me some examples that you might find of devolutions? And it doesn't mean they've already split off. It means that they might split off.
London, a lot with the Muslim communities.
Okay, you could have some fracturing. I don't know if London wants to split off from the rest
They
of
don't want to, but I think the same.
Okay, good. Devolution, the idea of devolution.
Well, the recent vote in Scotland to separate from England altogether inside of the UK, but become their own separate country and have their own politics.
Excellent example. So there would be a threatening of a devolution that could occur in an actual splitting away from the UK. Now another one would be Northern Ireland, where you have you know, opposing viewpoints that could cause a splitting.
The Vatican is one.
Oh,
Their
the
own
Vatican is a
country.
city in itself, right?
And it's its own country.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And so there's an area of Spain called Catalonia, which has a very different culture from the rest of Spain, and also has very different economic, very strong economic system. And so Catalonians often feel that they have a quite different, they threaten to want to split off from the rest of Spain. Now, Spain would want to keep Catalonia intact. A country generally wants to keep all of its land intact, and so those devolutionary forces are existing, but then there's the other forces that keep it together, mostly economic. forces would keep it together. And also, just a state wanting to remain intact, the government and such. There's, you don't want to lose people, land, resources. So those are a couple examples that we have of devolutions. Okay, that'll be enough for today. Thank you.